Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos.
The main character, after dying his previous life, wakes up inside Naruto as an Uchiha right after the Nine-Tails attack. He joins Orochimaru's ranks and becomes his successor. What will a scientist inside of the Uchiha clan do?
Naruto, the Uchiha's scientific madman. Chapter 1, Uchiha Ao. Konoha Village. A secluded corner. The damp, dark air was filled with the stench of disinfectant. A dim yellow light was on in the sealed laboratory. All around was silent. The snakes coiled in the shadows, closely watching the movements around them. A very important experiment is taking place here. Orochimaru was conducting the experiment with a blank expression when a childish voice reminded him, and a look of surprise appeared in his eyes. The failure of the initial cell implantation experiment was due to cell rejection. Cells in different people are not the same, and all of them will produce rejection. Orochimaru muttered to himself, silently savoring the boy's words and memorizing them. His hands kept moving, but his eyes grew brighter and brighter. Finally, after the experiment ended, Orochimaru quickly recorded the experimental data and then rapidly compared all the data obtained from the experiment. How do you know this? As far as I know, the Uchiha clan doesn't collect any books on this subject. Orochimaru turned his head, a crimson line appearing on his cold face, his eyes revealing excitement. Based on the boy's description, he completed a series of experiments and successfully determined a key human indicator, blood type. By producing different serum antibodies, the blood of each individual can be tested for authenticity. According to the boy, the first Hokage had type B blood. This has been confirmed in the experiment just now. His pair of golden vertical pupils stared intently at the boy who had just spoken, as if he were eyeing prey, his gaze filled with scrutiny and admiration. Of course, practice. This is the experience I gained from dissecting thousands of mice. Orochimaru-senpai, biological cells can have a strong rejection effect due to differences in genes. The human immune cells will treat these unfamiliar cells as foreign pathogens as their own defense. This is the core concept, finding the reasons for rejection. Once this problem is solved, it will be easy to allow external cells to fuse with the host. To achieve the experimental objectives we require, there are many factors that contribute to cell transplantation failure, mainly 4 aspects: personnel, equipment, materials, methods, and environmental conditions, and none of these can be ignored. Based on the difficulties you encountered during your experiment, we can eliminate possibilities little by little. Your technique is definitely not the problem. We can rule out the personnel issue. The transplant technique is not complicated and does not require any sophisticated equipment. The material is top-tier wood-release cells, which is the difficult part. A boy of about 12 or 13, dressed in a dark blue Uchiha clan shirt, stood at the entrance of the laboratory, explaining some brand new experimental research concepts in a serious manner. In the process of describing it, he detailed more than 30 mistakes that occurred during Orochimaru's experiment. This was still a lenient way of putting it. As a research expert in biotechnology, judging by the highest standards of biological experiments, Orochimaru's experimental environment alone is enough to disqualify the entire experiment. His name is Uchiha, a transmigrator. His original name was Li Qing, and he was a research dog in a biological laboratory. They were working overtime as part of a vaccine development team, working on a globally impactful and extremely serious microbial infectious disease. After spending 10 days and 10 nights in the laboratory, just as we were about to overcome the difficult problem, suddenly everything went black, and when he opened his eyes again, he found himself in this world as an Uchiha clan member who had just graduated from the Ninja Academy. It has just experienced the nine-tailed fox's rampage, and its predecessor died in a small-scale disturbance. He transmigrated during the darkest period of the Uchiha clan's suppression. After realizing their situation, his first choice was to jump ship, leave the Uchiha clan's dilapidated ship, and seek refuge with Orochimaru, the future greatest benevolent father of the Uchiha clan. This legendary ninja nanny posed no threat to the Uchiha clan and left behind a large inheritance. Orochimaru's luck and opportunities are unreliable, but his reputation is beyond reproach. Compared to the lunatics within the Uchiha clan, they are much more trustworthy. What's your purpose in finding me? I remember that your Uchiha clan has always looked down on us commoner ninjas, and you are the first Uchiha clan member to take the initiative to come to me. Orochimaru stopped what he was doing, walked over with a cold smile on his lips, and made way for the experimental table. He was very interested in the ideas described by the Uchiha brat in front of him. But this guy who so readily came to us was talking about some key issues in the experiments he was researching. This made him feel a strong sense of vigilance. Who exactly leaked his experimental information? Danzo's image subconsciously surfaced in my mind. He was the only one who truly understood his own experiments. Is this kid Danzo's spy? Orochimaru sized up Uchiha Rao, an invisible pressure emanating from him, causing ripples in the air. That was an aura formed by the explosion of chakra. The killing intent, emanating from a top-tier, shadow-level expert, fell upon the young man. Even elite Jonin would be terrified by Orochimaru's imposing presence. The sheer force of its imposing aura seemed to crush a person. Uchiha Rao, facing this imposing aura head-on, showed no fear whatsoever. He walked directly to Orochimaru and said with a firm gaze, "Orochimaru-senpai, I've loved doing experiments and research since I was a child. I've always heard that you have extremely high attainments in ninjutsu research, so I want to learn from you. Those stupid Uchiha guys aren't even worth my time." An experimental subject of the Uchiha clan who voluntarily defected. There are still many novel concepts inside my belly. Orochimaru was deeply moved. Follow me. Do you know? None of the students I've taught have had a good ending. Although he was tempted, Orochimaru still said some things that were meant to discourage him. This is a habit he has developed over the years. They don't easily develop feelings for people. They only have needs for tools. Ever since the first Hokage's grandson, Nawaki, died at his hands, Orochimaru never properly taught any more students after that. Only a few children were adopted from orphanages and kept around as laborers and experimental subjects. No students were ever taken in again. The only student currently on the surface is a talented girl whom the teacher was forced to accept under pressure. On the surface, they treated him as their personal disciple and trained him accordingly. The real purpose was to dispel some of the teacher's concerns and avoid arousing suspicion, although the initial purpose was not pure. However, after spending so many years together, he has become accustomed to mentoring this one disciple. There was no intention to recruit even one more student. Moreover, this student is a member of the Uchiha clan, who is currently at the center of the village's power struggle. Orochimaru-senpai. They have no use for me, but I'm different. I can help you achieve the experimental goals you need. Moreover, I am a member of the Uchiha clan and can provide rare Uchiha sharing and samples. Uchiha Ao laid out all his advantages. Uchiha sample. You. Orochimaru chuckled, took off his gloves, and threw them into the trash can next to him. Then he took off his white lab coat, hung it on a wooden hook on the wall, opened the laboratory door, and went out. He had investigated Uchiha Ao's background. It was utterly ridiculous that an Uchiha clansman who hadn't even awakened the Sharingan was so confidently promising to provide a Sharingan sample. Where does this piece of trash, whom even the Uchiha clan doesn't want, get his confidence from? I can give you a chance. Orochimaru's voice came from outside the door. There's an important experiment coming up. If you succeed, I can take you on as my assistant. Chapter 2, Experiment. 3 days later. Inside Orochimaru's secret laboratory. A test has officially begun. Orochimaru stood outside a glass window. His face remained calm as he gazed into the laboratory, but his heart was in turmoil. 5 years were spent preparing for this experiment. He devoted a great deal of effort to this experiment, even abandoning his bid for the Hokage position at one point. But now he has handed over the main operation of this experiment to an Uchiha clan member who has just graduated from the Ninja Academy. Orochimaru, however, felt no reluctance. Instead, his eyes were filled with curiosity and inquiry. During his observation of Uchiha Ao's preparations over the past few days, he discovered many details and secrets that had not been given much attention in previous research. Before the experiment, it was necessary to completely disinfect the environment and prepare various disinfectants to maintain a so-called sterile environment. Bacteria, a species that has never been known before. Through Uchiha Ao's explanation, he realized that there were actually all sorts of pathogens and bacteria hidden in places invisible to the naked eye. The presence of these tiny microorganisms would multiply the failure rate of already difficult experiments. According to Uchiha Ao's description, Orochimaru personally created the first experimental device called a microscope. And they actually saw what the so-called germs looked like tiny insects lurking in every corner. The most familiar example is mold, which forms when food spoils. It can actually perform minute activities. This discovery completely changed some of Orochimaru's deep-seated ideas. This reassured him that he could confidently entrust this important experiment to Uchiha Ao. Uchiha Ao straightened his white lab coat, put on a mask, 2 layers of gloves, and then a sealed snakeskin sterile gown, completely concealing his figure. After thoroughly disinfecting his entire body with alcohol, he walked to the lab table. He examined the experimental subject in front of him. A complete person. He and the other person were about the same age. The slight twitching of his eyelids proved that this boy was not the cadaver he had seen in his previous life. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from excitement. This was the first time I had ever seen a complete cadaver. A very peculiar feeling welled up inside me. His eyes flashed, and a row of words appeared on the light screen. Experiment completion rate, 58%. I'm not seeing things. This is a tool that came with Uchiha Ao from another world. Regardless of the type of experiment, the progress of the experiment would appear before his eyes at any time. In his previous life, relying on this light screen, he became his mentor's favorite student and completed several key national projects. Unexpectedly, after his sudden death, this light screen also traveled through time. By continuously completing the various preparatory work and experimental steps, one can continuously advance the experimental process until the experiment is successful. Under normal circumstances, preliminary preparations account for about 50% of the progress. The more thorough the preparation and the faster the progress, the less likely the experiment will fail. If the preparation work is less than 40% complete, the experiment is unlikely to succeed. The fact that the experiment is currently 58% complete indicates that the preparations have far exceeded expectations. as long as the experiment is completed step by step. Success can be achieved easily. The experiment was not difficult to perform. It simply involved injecting the boy's heart with primary cell serum, just as Uchiha Ao was going through the steps in his mind. A girl, also dressed in a white coat and full of protective clothing, pushed a tool rack over and looked at Uchiha Ao with a surprised and suspicious gaze. "Give me your hand," Uchiha Ao commanded in a calm tone. The girl let go and noticed that the other person had sprayed a liquid from a bottle onto her hand. The smell of alcohol. Such an important experiment, and you're still drinking. Can't you even respect Lord Orochimaru's research? Red Bean's cheeks flushed red as she angrily questioned him. She couldn't understand why Orochimaru would entrust such an important experiment to a boy who looked about her age. They even promised him that if the experiment succeeded, they would take his place and become the teacher's assistant. The other person's fair and delicate hands did not look like they had been used in experiments at all. The operation was completely unfamiliar to me. There wasn't a trace of the chakra knife. They even needed to use iron blades for the experiment. He's a complete novice. They didn't seem to understand experiments at all. Hongdu was furious. Although she obeyed the teacher's orders and acted as an assistant, she was filled with jealousy and resentment. However, under the teacher's orders, they did not show it. Out of respect for her teacher, she did not show it. I have no intention of causing trouble. If Uchiha Ao performs poorly in the experiment and fails to complete it, she will definitely make him regret being born. Shut up and watch carefully, Uchiha Ao said coldly. From the moment Hongdu entered the room, he was already in action, carefully examining her from head to toe and disinfecting her entire body. A sense of humiliation and anger welled up inside Mitarashi Anko, and she glanced subtly at Orochimaru, who was watching from outside the window. Asshole. They deliberately embarrassed her in front of the teacher. She had finally gained Orochimaru's approval, and even after being promoted to Chunin, she was willing to give up the weaving arranged by the village and volunteer to become an assistant to her teacher. She didn't want to have her position taken away so easily by this guy in front of her. After a thorough inspection, Uchiha Ao finally spoke up and compared the various items with Anko. Uchiha Ao then began comparing the various items with Anko. Are all the materials ready? Ready. Environmental checks. Temperature 22 degrees Celsius. Humidity 56%. Disinfection measures completed. High temperature, baking for 2 hours. First generation serum. Here. Where? Exact location. The first layer of the tool rack is double packaged to ensure sterility. Scalpels, surgical scissors, hemostats. Second shelf of tools. Today's experimental subject, status record sheet. On the left wall hangs a document stating that the experimental subject's heart had no organic lesions, myocardial blood supply was normal, and there were no antibodies in the body that rejected the intercolumnar cells. Very good, Red Bean. Check the sterility of all instruments one more time, complete the sterilization process, and proceed with the experiment after letting it stand for 15 minutes. Inspection complete. All instruments have been sterilized twice. The microscalpel is sharp enough, and the suture needles can transmit chakra normally. The patient's anesthesia effect is confirmed. All sensation is completely lost, and vital signs are stable, heart rate 68 BPM, blood pressure 120/80 mmHg. After 3 consecutive days of adjustment. This had already become a habit for Anko, even though she deeply disapproved of Uchiha Ao's attempt to take her assistant's position. However, it must be admitted that this process made her more clear and specific about the experimental surgery, knowing every step she needed to take and ensuring that the desired results were presented completely. Although I haven't done this experiment. However, I already have a clear understanding of the entire process. I had never felt this way before when I was Orochimaru's assistant. This is a completely new experience. The experiment proceeded smoothly. Anko noticed that Uchiha Ao did not use a chakra blade to make the incision like his teacher, but instead easily cut open the patient's chest with a specially made metal scalpel. The surgical incision revealed a slowly beating heart. The next step is to accurately locate the area of the heart where the injection will be administered. When injecting, the main blood vessels and conduction bundles of the heart must be avoided. The injection should be slow and slow. If leakage occurs, stop immediately. The serum was injected into the heart of the experimental subject by inserting a pre-prepared serum infusion tube. Then the ventricles are sutured to close the chest cavity. Uchiha Ao was well prepared, and the outcome was already predetermined. 3 hours passed. After the experimental subject's chest cavity was completely closed, Uchiha Aoya let out a heavy sigh, a smile appearing on his lips. He turned his head and looked out the window at Orochimaru, who hadn't left. His lips twitched slightly. Through the mask of the sterile protective suit, a few words were spoken. The experiment was a success. Chapter 3: Danzo Kidnaps People. The experimental subject, codenamed A, already possessed the cells of the first generation and had mastered the wood release bloodline limit. However, his wood release technique was completely insignificant compared to the first Hokage wood release. For this reason, Danzo kept asking Orochimaru to increase the purity of Ku's wood release bloodline. This is A's third experiment. The goal is to make his wood release Kekkei Genkai stronger. This was also to pave the way for Danzo's first-generation cell transplantation plan. Orochimaru had lost all interest in this. Therefore, he used it as a test for Uchiha Ao, and originally he did not expect Uchiha Ao to be able to complete this experiment. But I didn't expect it to be completed smoothly. After 3 days of conditioning, Jia had mastered the changes in his body. The first-generation bloodline within him had further fused, greatly enhancing his physical attributes. Even his chakra level had doubled. The wood release technique it used was quite impressive, possessing some degree of vitality. Even Orochimaru felt a little reluctant to part with this talent. A thought of competing with Danzo, for it arose in his mind. However, he quickly concealed it. Kingjun, you have such outstanding talent in experiments, and you're not bad in ninjutsu either, right? Why do you hide yourself as a talentless, good-for-nothing? Orochimaru reviewed the body test report of the armored figure, and after 2 days of testing, had reached a conclusion. Originally, A's overall strength was only at the peak of Genin, but after an experiment, he has been upgraded to Chunin level and even has a faint amount of chakra like Jonin. Significant improvements have been made in all aspects of my health. After deciding to take Uchiha Ao under his wing, he had someone investigate him. It was discovered that Uchiha Ao had a mediocre reputation within the village. His grades at the Ninja Academy were below average, and he was considered a disgrace to the Uchiha clan. His performance was almost identical to the survey results. He hadn't even mastered the 3 body techniques, let alone the chakra blade required for the experiment, which demanded extremely high chakra control, an ability he simply didn't have the talent to master. From this point of view, he can at best become a theoretical researcher. If he wants to conduct more advanced research, his talent becomes his biggest limitation. Uchiha Ao spread his hands, a smile appearing on his lips. Teacher, I'm not hiding anything. My talent in ninjutsu is very poor. Bloodline talent is given to me by my parents at birth, but my strength is something I achieve through hard work. Bloodline talent only gives us a lower limit. It cannot determine our upper limit. I know I'm not very talented, so I'm going to get a new body. He lowered his head, feigning inferiority, avoiding Orochimaru's burning gaze. As he lowered his head, a smile appeared on his lips. Uchiha Ao's talent was indeed mediocre. Even with the Uchiha bloodline, he barely graduated from the Ninja Academy and was always at the bottom of the clan assessments. Change bodies. Orochimaru smacked his lips, a glint of shrewdness flashing in his eyes. Uchiha Ao's words struck a chord with Orochimaru, who had been planning a brand new research project recently. This is a milestone project for Orochimaru in his research on forbidden techniques. That's a great idea. Have you made any progress in your research on this? Orochimaru asked subtly. But Uchiha Ao immediately saw the excitement in his heart. He immediately realized that the fish had taken the bait. The soul is a person's most fundamental mark. If you change your spirit, you may be able to change your body. I know there is a secret technique in the village called the spirit transformation technique. Perhaps through this technique, I can gain control of my own spirit, and then use some methods to wear down the original soul in the target's body, making it my soul container, and thus be able to replace it with a completely new body. Uchiha Ao had already devised a detailed plan long before he even went looking for Orochimaru. Coincidentally, I have a similar idea and am currently in the planning stage. Orochimaru took a document out of the drawer and handed it to Uchiha Ao for a glance. After deciding to take Uchiha Ao under his wing, Orochimaru didn't hold anything back. She shared some of her research with him. Uchiha Ao took the documents and began to carefully read through them. The document wasn't long. It was only about 10 pages long, and I finished reading it in less than 10 minutes. It contains extensive research and esoteric techniques related to the soul. Among them is the spirit transformation technique, a secret technique once exclusive to the Kato family. After the death of its heir, Kato Dan, it came into the possession of the village and was recorded in the Book of Sealing. With a third Hokage authorization, Orochimaru saw this technique in the Book of Seals, and combining it with some of his own ideas, proposed researching the reanimation jutsu. The spirit transformation technique was the inspiration for Orochimaru's reincarnation technique. This has now become Orochimaru's main research focus. Uchiha Ao closed the file and handed it back to Orochimaru. Teacher, this technique. The research process might be quite complicated, right? Uchiha Ao reminded him. The tone was rather tactful. This technique is very likely a trap set by Dans for Orochimaru, because the study of this technique involves the human soul. The research process requires a large amount of material, and the material is all living organisms. This led Orochimaru to turn his attention to the villages of Konoha. This ultimately led to his defection. Ao didn't directly remind Orochimaru. Danzo is still his partner, but if the truth comes out and Orochimaru doesn't trust him now, he could very well become the victim. Only after Danzo obtains what he wants, and will undoubtedly abandon Orochimaru without hesitation, will his words at this moment make Orochimaru recall them and increase his trust in him. Don't worry, I've already come up with a preliminary plan, and there are no problems with the technical approach. Orochimaru said confidently. Take a good look at this, and give me a report later. Orochimaru had barely finished speaking. A figure suddenly appeared at the doorway. Danzo, dressed in a tight-fitting outfit, stood at the door, accompanied by two subordinates in uniform. The old man squinted, calmly sizing up Uchiha Ao. Orochimaru, who is this? He noticed the Uchiha pattern on Ching's clothes, which was repulsive, and he couldn't help but frown. He's my newly hired assistant. Orochimaru answered calmly, subtly shielding Uchiha Ao behind him and protecting him from Danzo's scrutiny. Assistant. If you need manpower, I can provide it for you. Why bother looking for an Uchiha clan member whose background you don't even know? Do you know that the current research is? Well, it's all. If it gets leaked, neither of us will be able to stay in the village anymore. Danzo Shimura threatened coldly, expressing his deep dissatisfaction with Orochimaru's unauthorized actions. Hand him over to me, and I'll take care of this problem for you. I can assign you some more research to do. As he spoke, Danzo pulled a glass bottle from his sleeve. The bottle was half filled with water, which was reflected in his two scarlet eyes. This is a warning. His other hand reached out to grab Uchiha Ao. The attitude is very clear. He has now broken ties with the Uchiha clan and become an irreconcilable enemy. It's impossible for Orochimaru to allow a member of the Uchiha clan to be his assistant. He planned to finish off Uchiha Ao on the spot. Upon seeing this, Uchiha Ao's pupils contracted, a hint of panic flashed across his face, and he subconsciously took a step back. Those were sharing an eyes with 3 Tomo. Danzo's blatant display of it meant he considered Uchiha our dead man. Orochimaru stretched out his hand and blocked Danzo's outstretched hand. You're overstepping your bounds. It's none of your business to interfere with my people. Remember, we're just partners, Danzo. Orochimaru's tone turned cold, revealing a domineering presence. After taking in Uchiha Ao, he would not allow anyone to have any ill intentions. He would prevent others from having any ill intentions, even if this person was his closest partner, Danzo Shimura. If that's the case, then so be it. Danzo gave Uchiha Ao a deep look, then with a flick of his wrist, he put the bottle containing the Sharingan into his sleeve, before turning and leaving without looking back. Chapter 4: The Uchiha's Predicament. Go investigate all the Uchiha clan members around Orochimaru. Danzo emerged from Orochimaru's base with a livid face. I never expected Orochimaru to disrespect him because of a Uchiha clansman. There is a proper way to die. He glanced menacingly at the entrance to Orochimaru's base, a cold smile playing on his lips. The plan needs to be moved up. Yes. The ninja, dressed in a grey ANBU uniform, knelt on the ground and answered respectfully. It then turned into a wisp of smoke and disappeared. After a long while, 2 figures emerged from the cave. It was Orochimaru, Uchiha Ayakane, and Mitarashi Anko, who had just become Orochimaru's disciples. I've never seen this kind of talent in you back in school, Hongdu said in a complicated tone. Ao used to be an arrogant guy. Although his grades were always at the bottom of the class, he always boasted that he would surpass Itachi Uchiha and become the #1 genius of the Uchiha clan. Despite his poor talent, he kept provoking other classmates and was beaten up quite a few times in the process. But his personality remained unchanged. Since graduating early, she had never seen her classmates from the Ninja Academy again. 2 years later, when they met again, Uchiha Ao unexpectedly showed a surprising side of himself. She had never seen Lord Orochimaru so serious about someone. A genius ninja like you can't possibly see the efforts of ordinary people like us. Ching shrugged and said, the original owner's talent was indeed poor, completely unable to keep up with the normal level of the Uchiha clan, and compared with other Uchiha clan members of the same age, he could be called a piece of trash. Anko possesses exceptional talent in training. She graduated from the Ninja Academy at the age of 10 and was promoted to Chunin at the age of 12. While ordinary students like her were still fretting about graduation, she had already participated in the war on the front lines. The fact that Orochimaru chose her from among so many outstanding graduates is enough to prove her excellence. He can be considered one of the most outstanding students in his class. The only ones that can be compared to them are outstanding players like Mighty and Namia. I'll leave you here. Once you're inside the village, Danzo's men won't dare to lay a hand on you. Red Bean stood at the village gate, bidding farewell to Uchiha. I'll be waiting for you here tomorrow at the same time, so we can go find Lord Orochimaru together. She gave him instructions. Compared to an average 12-year-old boy, she already behaved very maturely. However, his development was clearly lagging behind. He was a head shorter than Uchiha and had a flat chest. I'm afraid that won't work. Tomorrow is the Ninja Academy's class placement ceremony, and I need to go to the school. Uchiha said that his predecessor had just graduated from the Ninja Academy with a very low score, barely reaching the graduation passing grade with an overall score of 61. If you're even slightly off, you won't be able to graduate. The ceremony was delayed for 2 months due to the nine-tailed fox's rampage. After confirming the third Hokage's return to power, the matter was put back on the agenda. Red Bean, who is this? A pretty girl waved from a short distance away. Uchiha noticed that the girl's eyes were bloodshot, not Sharingan, but naturally red pupils. This is a characteristic of the Uchiha family. A boy with a large beard, who looked rather mature, was walking beside her. Ching, how come you're with Hongdu? Asuma looked at Uchiha with suspicion. This fellow Uchiha clansman was even less talented than Uchiha Obito. Like Obito, he was bullied by other Uchiha clansmen during their time at school. At least Obito dared to fight back and wouldn't bully other classmates. When this guy was bullied by his fellow Uchiha, he didn't even dare to fight back. He just used the Uchiha name to bully other ordinary civilian classmates. He is a new assistant whom the teacher has taken in, and he will be practicing with the teacher from now on. Hongdu said, with a helpless expression. She and Kurenai were good friends, and the two had a good relationship. However, she could tell at a glance that Kurenai had probably misunderstood something, and her gaze kept sizing up Uchiha. She suspected that the two were having some kind of secret. Rather than being mistaken for lovers, she'd rather be clear from the start. Red Bean looks down on someone with poor talent like Uchiha. Uchiha glanced at Asuma, not having time for pleasantries, waved to Anko, and then headed towards the Uchiha clan's residence. What's with the attitude? Just a loser from the Uchiha clan. Isma muttered to himself. The reason Orochimaru's brother took a liking to him was probably because of his Uchiha bloodline. Red Bean, don't worry. He poses no threat to your position. He noticed the complicated look in Anko's eyes as she looked at Uchiha and quickly offered words of comfort. He thought Anko was worried that Uchiha would steal the teacher's attention from her. You don't know, Ching's talent is extremely high. Hongdu said with a wry smile that there were some things she couldn't tell outsiders. But deep down, he knew that she was no match for him in research. The only thing I can boast about is my talent for cultivation. But the teacher was never short of geniuses in ninjutsu. What outstanding qualities could he possibly have? Otherwise, he wouldn't have barely graduated from school at the age of 12. Asuma said disdainfully, his tone full of contempt for Uchiha. Because it was the end of the war, many students in their class graduated early and joined the front lines. They have now become the backbone of the village, and most of them have become Chunin or even Jonin. Kakashi was the most outstanding among them, and had become the captain of the elite Anbu, surpassing the vast majority of people and becoming the representative of their generation. A recent graduate like Uchiha Ao is utterly insignificant. Assumer, could it be that the Uchiha did this on purpose? They don't want to help the village win the war, and most of the Uchiha students didn't choose to graduate early. Kurenai Yuhai said from the side. This is the prevailing view in the village, questioning the Uchiha clan's loyalty. The Uchiha clan is now the prime suspect in the Nine Tails incident. Public opinion is very unfavorable to the Uchiha, but they couldn't produce any evidence to prove their innocence. If that's not the case, how did they manage to disappear during the Nine Tails incident, plunging the entire village into a major crisis? You know, they're the ones responsible for the safety of Konoha village. A bunch of useless trash. All Uchiha clan members are good-for-nothings. Kurenai Yuhai spoke with bloodshot eyes, her gaze filled with hatred. Because of this turmoil, she lost her beloved father. She hated every member of the Uchiha clan. If it weren't for their incompetence, my father wouldn't have died in this turmoil. Red Bean's lips twitched slightly, but she didn't say anything to defend the Uchiha. The villagers are suffering now, and a large number of civilians have died or been injured. Someone must take the blame for this turmoil. Clearly, the Uchiha clan became the target of the villagers' venting. The village also tacitly accepted this statement. Although Anko knew that ordinary Uchiha clansmen like Uchiha Ao had no ability to stop the Nine Tails rampage. But the other villagers didn't think so. After all, it was because he was surnamed Uchiha. After all, the Uchiha clan has always considered itself the #1 and most prestigious ninja clan in the ninja world. Chapter 5, Family and Clan. Uchiha Ao returned home. His younger brother and sister quickly came to greet him. Brother, you're back. His younger brother, Uchiha Ran, is 2 years younger than him. He is just 10 years old this year and is still in school. He has excellent grades, and there is a high probability that he will go directly to work in the police department after graduation. The police department holds a very high position within the Uchiha clan, and the vast majority of resources are obtained through the police department. Those who join the police department are essentially the core members of the family and are the focus of their development. People with average talent like Uchiha Ao could only serve as ordinary clansmen, training in the Jonin class established by the village. Secondly, there are ordinary clansmen who lack ninja talent. For example, their mother was an ordinary person who had never practiced chakra and worked as a housewife at home. Yoba's father died when she was 8 years old. They were left behind, mother and children, who lived with the support of their family. They also have a youngest sister named Zai, who is just 8 years old and also attends the Ninja Academy. Why are you all out of school so early today? Uchiha Ao asked curiously. It's around 3 or 4 p.m. now, and the ninja school won't let out for another 2 hours. This afternoon, the school needed to prepare for tomorrow's graduation ceremony, and the third Hokage will be coming, so they gave me half a day off. Uchiha Ran replied. His eyes flashed, and after a moment's hesitation, he continued to ask. Brother, do you know which squad you've been assigned to? There have been some unpleasant rumors circulating recently. They said his older brother's talent was poor and no teacher wanted him, so the third Hokage forcibly assigned him to Team 4. However, he heard that the entire family of the Jonin leading Team 4 had died in the Nine Tails attack. If my older brother goes to a class like that, he will definitely be targeted. They even face life-threatening situations when on missions. I don't know what. What did you hear? Uchiha Ao asked. For the past 2 weeks, he had been spending all his time with Orochimaru, trying to persuade him to join Orochimaru's sect. He had no time to pay attention to what was happening in the village. I heard that you were assigned to Shimura Kankei's team. He is a member of the Shimura family, and his wife and daughters were killed in the Nine Tails rampage. Uchiha Ran said, with a grim expression. The Shimura family lives on the edge of the village, very close to the village's perimeter. Located at the first site where the Nine Tails erupted. The casualties were heavy. More than 30% of the clan members died on the spot. Less than half of the tribesmen survived the worst of the disaster. They belonged to one of the families that suffered the most casualties in the village. Shimura Kenkage escaped unharmed because he was away on a mission. For this reason, the third Hokage chose to turn a blind eye to Danzo's actions against the Uchiha clan. They allowed the Uchiha clan's reputation to be arbitrarily tarnished after this turmoil. Should we ask the clan leader to switch us to another team? Uchiha Ran suggested. The siblings depended on each other for survival and had a very good relationship. In Uchiha Ran's view, the main reason why Uchiha Ao was so outspoken and caused trouble was to protect him and his sister. Even if they are weaker than their opponents, they will bravely stand in front of them to protect them from being bullied. My brother's spiritual practice is lagging behind because he usually has to work after school to help support the family. There is no time for spiritual practice. We don't have the money to pull strings at home, and you two still have to study. Don't worry, I've already found you a very good place. Uchiha Ao said with a smile. He wasn't the original incarnation, but he could still sense that the family relationships were very harmonious. Most families within the Uchiha clan are very harmonious. Love and care for each other. Competition and suppression only arise when different families are vying for resources for spiritual practice. But Uchiha Ao knew that he simply couldn't treat these two unfamiliar younger siblings as family. For safety reasons, he did not trust anyone in the Ren family. Brother, you don't need to worry about us. The younger sister, Uchiha Yukari, spoke up from the side. She is 8 years old and has become much more sensible. After school, they can also find some things to do within the family to earn a little living expenses. You don't need to rely on your older brother to do everything anymore. Our family has produced 3 ninjas, so our future life will definitely be good. Brother, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Uchiha Ran chimed in. Although Konoha village is called a ninja village, the proportion of ninjas is actually not high. On average, about 1 ninja can be produced from 3 families. The high casualty rate among Chunin and Genin has prevented the village's ninja population from increasing. It wasn't until the war ended in the last 2 years and the 4th Hokage took office that the number of ninjas in the village increased somewhat. The number remained at 20,000. The number of ninjas in the ninja clan exceeds 15,000. The division of the ninja clan is also very simple. A clan with more than 10 ninjas can be called a ninja clan. Even for a powerful clan like the Uchiha, on average, each small family could only produce 1 ninja. There weren't many ninjas. Dinner is ready, let's eat. The mother, busy in the kitchen, peeked out and spoke to her 3 children in the living room. Uchiha Ran skillfully unfolded a folding table, while her younger sister brought over 4 small chairs. Uchiha Ao walked into the kitchen and found his mother serving soup. The mother did not have her own name. The neighbors all called her Mrs. Orange because the father's name was Uchiha Orange. Having stayed at home for many years, she no longer has the courage to go out and work. After her husband died, she could only take on cleaning and washing jobs among her neighbors to earn a meager living. Several teenagers were unable to work. Most of the food in the house comes from the 2 plots of land in the front and backyards. Therefore, their family lived in extreme poverty. The dishes displayed on the cabinet were very simple. A serving of green vegetables, a serving of pan-fried fish, and a serving of miso soup. 4 people, 3 dishes. The staple food is rice porridge, with more soup than rice. He can barely get enough to eat, but he is not getting enough nutrition, so much so that even at 12 years old, he is still less than 1.5 meters tall. Their family has no stable source of income, relying mostly on family support and their mothers and his part-time jobs. The family allowance is about 6,000 taels per month. With his part-time job, he was able to scrape together 10,000 taels, which was barely enough to support his family in the village. This is also their main source of livelihood. Other ordinary families simply couldn't afford such expenses. The simple family meal was enjoyed by the siblings. After drinking a bowl of porridge, Ching put down her chopsticks and watched her younger siblings eat, her expression slightly relaxed. I was an orphan in my past life, but I never expected to have family in this life. He has never spent time with his family. I don't know how to deal with it. But according to his view of outsiders, only the exchange of interests can maintain a stable relationship. The meal was eaten in silence. This is a rule my father established when he was alive, and we still follow it now. Even after their father passed away, their mother would still place a pair of bowls and chopsticks on the main seat so that her children would remember their father. Knock, knock. A soft knocking sound broke the calm atmosphere. The sound came from the main gate outside the courtyard. Ching stood up, nodded calmly to her mother, and walked out. Passing through the courtyard, I arrived at the main gate and opened it. There was an acquaintance outside the door. The most outstanding representative of the current generation of Uchiha is Uchiha Shisui. Shisui, you've come. Uchiha Ao smiled and said, "Have you eaten? The elder is looking for you." Jai Shui spoke calmly, his eyes revealing a sense of inquiry and scrutiny. He discovered some of Ching's secrets. Chapter 6 Reminder. Ao Orochimaru is not a good person. Stay away from him. Shisui, with his back to Ching, hurried along, his soft voice ringing out. It's like a suggestion to a friend. But apart from being graduates of the same year, they had no interaction whatsoever. These are the words he spoke at that moment. It matches the personality he projects to the outside world, gentle and reliable. The Uchiha clan has more than 2,000 ninja members. Uchiha Shisui is widely recognized as the most talented genius among the more than 2,000 Uchiha ninjas. In a few years, when the water level drops a little higher, he will become the #1 Uchiha. Even the clan head, Fugaku Uchiha, needed to consult Shisui on certain matters. Right now, Shisui is just a 9-year-old child who has just been promoted to Chunin. He was a few years younger than Kakashi and the others, but he graduated in the same year as Ching. His talent completely surpasses that of Ching. Compared to Shisui, Ching is a neglected member of the lower class. The two individuals hold completely opposite positions within their families. Before he was even 9 years old, he had already awakened the Sharingan and become the most valued talent in the family. My affairs are none of your business. You, the super genius of the Uchiha clan, should keep a low profile for the time being to avoid any unforeseen events. Ching appreciated the gesture and offered a reminder. Although Orochimaru may seem dangerous, it is not safe to be around him. His various experiments could cause irreversible damage to the body. This is an unavoidable side effect of biological experiments. But compared to waiting to die in the Uchiha clan, he was willing to become a sword under Orochimaru's command, at least to die on the experimental table he liked, rather than having his neck cut off in his sleep. Jai Shui is a good person, but that's all there is to him. Thank you, I understand. Shisui gave Ching a deep look and realized that he had never really understood this cousin. Ching comes from a simple family and has very poor talent. They are not valued within the family. There hasn't been much attention on it all along. It was only when Shisui and the other person were taking the graduation exam together that Shisui noticed their fellow clansmen and learned about this person. I didn't really care at first. It wasn't until he heard that Uchiha Ao was getting close to Orochimaru that he took it seriously and reported it to the family's senior management. The Uchiha clan is most intolerant of betrayal. Uchiha Ao's actions directly touched upon this taboo. He will face the most severe interrogation from his family. Shisui led Ao to the Kaga shrine, which the family had set up outside the village, not far from the Valley of the End. Standing at the highest point of the shrine, you can also see the portrait of Madara Uchiha. The sound of flowing water could be heard not far away. The shrine was completely silent. Several seemingly ordinary clansmen were cleaning the shrine. An elderly man dressed in a dark kimono knelt before the ancestral tablet of the Uchiha clan, gently tapping the wooden fish in front of him with a wooden mallet. The wooden fish emitted a rhythmic sound. The old man made soft, chanting sounds. Zhai Shui did not linger here, but led Qing through the main hall to a secret room in the backyard. Several important high-ranking members of the Uchiha clan were already seated, with a tea set on the table in front of them, and the tea in the cups had gone cold. Chief, Qing has been brought over. Shisui replied respectfully. After graduating from the ninja academy, he was assigned to work at a shrine, becoming a servant at his family's shrine. They practiced asceticism with the clansmen who were meditating within the shrine. After a year of quiet reflection here, they will be assigned to the police department to assume an important position. You're Uchiha Ao. The person in the central seat raised his head and looked over with piercing gaze, so intense it seemed to melt him. Uchiha Fugaku. He had a square face with deep nasolabial folds that looked as if they had been slashed open with a knife. His eyes were deep, and he carefully observed the changes in Uchiha Ao's face. Qing nodded slightly and glanced around the entire secret room without any fear. A simple tatami structure. There were 7 small tables set up, and an elderly clansman was kneeling in front of each table. Fugaku Uchiha was the youngest of them all. She looked to be around 20 years old. Why did you betray your family? The old man sitting to the left of Fugaku slammed his hand on the table and questioned him sternly. His eyes were slightly white, and there was a knife scar across his wrinkled face. Elder, when did I betray the family? Ao asked blankly, staring straight at Uchiha Setsuna without showing the slightest guilt. He was very clear about what his people were thinking. A group of stubborn, feudal, and withdrawn old people. They can't accept anything new. The Uchiha clan appears peaceful to the outside world and doesn't seem to face many restrictions, but in reality, they are more closed off and conservative than the Hyuga clan. They rarely had much interaction with the village. It's all due to the limitations imposed by these old guys. The Uchiha rarely participated in village affairs, confining themselves to the small world of the police department. It appears to be protecting the peace and stability of the village, but in reality, it is a prison. In contrast, although the main family of the Hyuga clan is conservative and never shows its face in public, the branch families maintain a very close connection with the village. Various tasks within the village are assigned to members of different families in exchange for gaining favor with the villagers. Therefore, the Hyuga clan has a much better reputation in the village than the Uchiha clan. You're secretly colluding with Orochimaru. Aren't you planning to betray your clan's information for your own future? Uchiha Setsuna said sternly. He is old, but not blind. He had a firm grasp on the movements of every member of his tribe. Uchiha Ao had been going out to look for Orochimaru many times in recent days, and had even stayed overnight at Orochimaru's residence on several occasions, all of which he knew about. That's why we're in this situation now. Despite his immense prestige and the failure of his coup attempt, he did not lose his family's rights. The newly appointed clan leader, Uchiha Fugaku, is still very young and poses no threat to his position. Within the Uchiha clan, his words were absolute commands. How is this possible? I approached Orochimaru for the sake of my clan. Now the clan is facing criticism from the entire village, and some clan members have also developed resentment towards the clan leader. Under such internal and external troubles, I can only do my best to find a new way out for the clan. He answered without batting an eye. The Uchiha clan doesn't have many experts who know how to use scheming and trickery. Even compared to the tech geeks in his office in his previous life, they are somewhat inferior. They're all a bunch of simple-minded people. Although his words were full of loopholes, they caught the attention of several elders. Elder, let him continue. What if he really is approaching Orochimaru for the sake of the clan? A chubby, round-faced old man eased the tension by saying that his name was Uchiha En, the fourth elder of the clan, and also Uchiha Ao's great-grandfather. What can Orochimaru do for the Uchiha clan? Uchiha Setsuna's tone softened somewhat, no longer as aggressive as before. Orochimaru, he can draw some attention away from his clan when the village is wary of them. Ching replied, looking at everyone with a smile in her eyes. The clan should also be aware of what Orochimaru is doing. His actions have crossed the line for the village's higher-ups, and they cannot allow him to continue his research. Ao's words startled Uchiha Setsuna slightly. It was as if my innermost thoughts had been read. What is he researching? Fugaku frowned and asked. He glanced at the elders present and found that none of them doubted Uchiha Ao's words. Chapter 7, Orochimaru's Attention. Fugaku, you need to pay close attention to the movements of the important ninjas in the village. Orochimaru is researching the first Hokage cells, which was a research project of the second Hokage before his death. Uchiha Setsuna glanced at Fugaku and explained with a hint of dissatisfaction. He was somewhat disappointed in Fugaku, the clan head. But you, Ching, how did you find out about this? Setsuna did not easily believe Uchiha Ao's words. Instead, she became more suspicious. A hint of murderous intent flashed in his eyes. How could a recent graduate know the secrets that the Uchiha clan had spent years trying to uncover? Who's behind him? At that moment, he glanced around at all the Uchiha high-ranking members present without making a sound. He didn't believe that a child like Uchiha Ao, who was only 10 years old, could possess such an important secret. And he successfully gained Orochimaru's trust. As long as you have value to others, you can gain their attention. Uchiha Ao answered easily. Obviously. These words did not gain the approval of the family's senior management. Since you refuse to honestly reveal your true intentions, then I'll see for myself. The third elder was an impatient man. Seeing that he couldn't get anything out of him, he transformed his eyes into a pair of Sharingan with 3 Toma and directly cast a Genjutsu. He attempted to use illusions to uncover the secrets hidden within Uchiha Ao's heart. But after the illusion was cast, the third elder's spirit passed through Ching's mind. However, nothing unusual was found. Ching has no secrets hidden in her heart. How is that possible? His eyes widened, his pupils contracted. This child is only 12 years old. Even a genius like Shisui cannot escape his illusionary interrogation. After a long while, under the watchful eyes of many elders, the third elder gently shook his head and replied, "No problem." He spoke hesitantly, lacking any confidence. He even doubted that his illusion interrogation had failed. In that case, let him give it a try. Upon seeing this, Fugaku Uchiha immediately spoke up. After speaking, he looked at the eldest elder, Uchiha Setsuna, the most influential person in the clan. She closed her eyes and took a small sip of tea, enjoying everyone's attention. After a moment's thought, he said, "Take precautions against his betrayal." He glanced at the door without making a sound. A chilling surge of chakra emanated from there. Then, Uchiha Ao was thrown out of the shrine like a dead dog and collapsed in the front yard. Shisui's figure emerged from the shadows. Did it pass the review? No one died. It seems the elders didn't find anything wrong. This guy didn't betray his family. Shisui squatted down and extended 2 fingers to examine Qing's nose. In an instant, Qing's eyes snapped open. He looked at Shisui's slightly hesitant eyes. He slowly stood up, uttering 2 words, "Thank you." "Why did you approach Orochimaru?" Shisui looked puzzled and asked. Although Orochimaru was a disciple of the 3rd Hokage, he lost the last election for the 4th Hokage and has since been completely removed from the village's core decision-making circle. Becoming his disciple would bring no benefits and would only offend the hawks within the family. He couldn't understand Qing's actions. They couldn't understand why Orochimaru would take in a discarded member of the Uchiha clan. Although Orochimaru has strayed from the core of decision-making, he is, after all, one of the legendary Sannin, whose strength is unfathomable. Becoming his disciple guarantees at least a future position as a Jonin. He squeezed into the family's decision-making level. The Uchiha clan has nothing that can attract me. Qing glanced at him, her dark pupils filled with determination, and said calmly, "What can Orochimaru offer you?" Jaishui asked curiously. Qing gave him a special feeling, as if his thoughts were completely different from those of other tribesmen. Everyone is working hard to cultivate and improve their strength. "Truth," Qing said calmly. He stood up, dusted himself off, and walked out of the shrine without looking back. Shisui watched his retreating figure, which showed no sign of lingering affection, a hint of confusion flashing in her eyes. Why was he able to leave so easily? If it were any other member of the clan, they would probably be terrified out of their wits if they were subjected to scrutiny by the clan's higher-ups. Truth. What is truth? Jai Shui didn't understand. Is truth more important than the glory of the Uchiha clan, so that he would willingly abandon the arrogance of the Uchiha and lower his head to become a disciple of an ordinary commoner ninja? Orochimaru is the village's acknowledged madman. He gave up the opportunity to become Hokage for some inexplicable research. What are you looking at? Fugaku appeared beside Shisui, patted him on the shoulder, and asked with concern. He noticed the confusion in Shisui's eyes. Why is she valued by Orochimaru? This lord has very high standards. In all these years, only Anko has been able to catch his eye. Ishu asked, puzzled. He concealed the slight jealousy in his heart. He was clearly the most talented member of the Uchiha clan, yet he had failed to gain the attention of the Konoha leadership. Uchiha Ao was just an ordinary clansman, but he became Orochimaru's disciple. Because he wants to become Hokage. Currently, the 3rd Hokage is acting as Hokage, but he is too old to continue for long. In the future, the 5th Hokage will be chosen. Orochimaru remains one of the strongest contenders. With Tsunade and Jiraiya out, he was practically the only option. Once Orochimaru takes over, Ao will be the Hokage disciple and will be qualified to succeed him as Hokage. Fugaku said softly, his gaze deep, as if he had seen through Uchiha Ao's little trick. A cold smile appeared on his lips. Naive little devil. This is the consensus among the family's senior management. It was because of this speculation that Qing, who had betrayed his family, was spared. Otherwise, he would have been executed on the spot by the elders, just like those clansmen who betrayed the Uchiha clan before. Shisui understood what Fugaku meant, and his eyes lit up. Can becoming Hokage free one from their clan? His bewildered gaze brightened slightly. His gaze involuntarily drifted towards the figure of the first Hokage beneath the Valley of the End in the distance. Shisui, don't follow his example. Fugaku reminded him softly. You are a family genius. All the family's resources will be invested in you in the future. You are different from him. He worried that Jai Shui might go astray. To align themselves with the higher-ups in Konoha. At the age of 9, Shisui has already graduated from ninja training and become a genin. Judging from the clan's assessment, he possesses at least the strength of a chunin. After 2 years of training, one can easily be promoted to jonin. Jai Shui nodded thoughtfully. Suddenly, he felt a pain in his neck. Before he could react, everything went black and he collapsed to the ground. The next moment, Orochimaru's figure slowly appeared in the location where he was standing. He stared menacingly at Uchiha Fugaku, who was on high alert. He glanced at the fallen Shisui. Orochimaru said threateningly, Ao is my disciple. You Uchiha people had better not do anything like what happened today again. He had been keeping a close eye on Qing's movements. Upon noticing Uchiha's actions, he immediately followed. He directly attacked Shisui, the most talented member of the Uchiha clan. This was intended to intimidate the entire Uchiha clan. Then, under the horrified gaze of Uchiha Fugaku, it vanished in a blur. The other side. Uchiha Ao had just left Kaga Shrine when he encountered Orochimaru, who was also leaving the shrine, on his way there. Are you all right? Orochimaru asked in a calm tone, his eyes revealing concern. He glanced at Qing, and finding no problems with her, looked away. They were able to escape unscathed from the Uchiha clan's shrine. This assistant is all right. No wonder he values her. It's nothing, Orochimaru-senpai. What brings you here? Ao replied that he was surprised by Orochimaru's appearance. Call me teacher. I've already spoken to the third Hokage. From now on, you'll be my second personal disciple. I've found everything you mentioned before. Come with me. Orochimaru nodded and stated his purpose for the visit. The most crucial part of the materials that Qing was shown was the art of spiritification. He had collected all the secret techniques related to the soul in the village in less than an afternoon. He waited for Qing to pass so that they could begin further research together. Chapter 8 Soul Research, Improvement of the Curse Seal. Reincarnation. This is the name Orochimaru gave to the forbidden technique he was currently researching. A technique that has never appeared before. Completely innovative techniques. Its function is very simple. It means allowing a person's soul to live in another body, obtaining a completely new body and lifespan by changing the soul. Qing never expected that she would be able to participate in the research of this technique. At this moment, he sat upright in a chair in a bedroom deep inside the secret base, with a 1-meter-long wooden table in front of him. On the table were a dozen or so scrolls, all of which contained information collected by Orochimaru. He observed for 4 or 5 days and roughly understood the world's definition of the soul. Some results were achieved during this period, which were then submitted to Orochimaru. In this Naruto world, the soul is a part of the body. This is a completely new concept compared to the previous life. After a person dies, that is, when their lifespan ends, their soul leaves the body and goes to the Pure Land. Ancient texts record that the full name of Pure Land is the land of ultimate bliss, a world created by the sage of six paths, belonging to the soul. The soul has a physical form and exists in the spiritual world as the original appearance of the human body. In the real world, it would be a beam of light or a translucent body. It is composed entirely of spiritual energy. It is part of chakra. Chakra also contains a portion of soul power. There are many forbidden techniques involving the soul in the ninja world, such as multiple shadow clone technique, Reaper death seal, adamantine sealing chains, spirit transformation technique, mind transfer technique, soul separation technique, impure world reincarnation, Rin rebirth, Kotomatsu kami, Tsukuyomi, and so on. The scroll placed in front of Ching contained 4 techniques: multiple shadow clone technique, corpse demon sealing technique, spirit transformation technique, and mind transfer technique. Both require the use of spiritual power. Orochimaru's idea was to create a technique specifically for souls, granting them the ability to attack other souls and seize their bodies by devouring their souls. Similar to the concept of body possession in the cultivation of immortality. It requires an absolutely enormous spiritual force. However, preparations for measures after possession were inadequate, and there was no rehearsal of possible abnormal situations. For example, problems such as failed possession, damage to the soul, and failed spiritual fusion. There was no preparation whatsoever, and no means of countermeasures were left behind. Knock, 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 knock. A knock came at the door. This woke Ching, who had just dozed off from her sleep. He rubbed his eyes, got up, and opened the door. At the entrance, Mitarashi Anko stood gracefully, holding a bento box. Good morning. I heard from your teacher that you stayed in your room for a whole day and night. I'm bringing you some food. Her gaze swept over Ching's tired face, and the slight resentment in her heart dissipated. Your body belongs to your teacher. Don't mistreat it, lest you worry your teacher. Do you like glutinous rice balls? Hongdu handed over the bento box, opened it, and revealed the dishes inside. 1 meat dish and 2 vegetable dishes, red bean paste, stewed meat, and stir-fried greens. The staple food is glutinous rice balls. Her favorite food. Thanks. Ching accepted it without hesitation and began to eat heartily. He was indeed hungry. During her time with Orochimaru, Anko always brought her food. Orochimaru can't cook either. She was basically in charge of logistics. Orochimaru also really liked her cooking. Although simple, it has a unique flavor. Ching was used to working overtime, and her meal times were irregular. Aside from being a little short-tempered, this girl is a nice person. In a few days, Lord Orochimaru will implant a cursed seal into us, you know. In order to ensure the success of the experiment, we must keep our bodies in peak condition. Red Bean reminded her. Watching Ching wolf down her food, a hint of joy flashed in her eyes. She really enjoyed seeing others eat the food she made. This is the best compliment to her cooking skills. Orochimaru didn't like her cooking and often left leftovers, while Ao would finish every single meal. I know, he told me that when he first came back. Are you sure you want to choose to have it implanted? It's very risky. This cursed seal has never been implanted into a human body before. Ching reminded him. The cursed seal was his first suggestion, compared to the cursed seal that Orochimaru himself created based on natural energy. Many changes have occurred. First, it enhanced the communication capabilities of the Reaper death seal. breaking the method of communicating with the Grim Reaper. This was applied to the curse seal, creating a top-down control system that allowed the main soul to monitor the status of the divided souls at any time, to avoid being replaced by a split soul instead of the main soul. Then, the soul independence characteristic of the spirit transformation technique is added, allowing each cursed seal to escape independently and return to its original body after the host dies. Furthermore, the addition of the soul-splitting characteristic of multiple shadow clones minimizes the cost of splitting the soul. This minimizes the damage to the soul during the process of creating the curse seal. Finally, through the special soul summoning of impure world reincarnation, the summoning characteristics of the cursed seal are enhanced, allowing the power accumulated by the separated cursed seal to return to the host's body. The only price is the death of the host. The latest version of the curse seal is actually a prerequisite for the forbidden technique, reincarnation. The main purpose is to improve the characteristics of the container, to make it more suitable for reincarnation. I'm not afraid. I'll cooperate unconditionally as long as the teacher needs me, Hongdu said without hesitation. Her purpose in existence is to fulfill all of Orochimaru's demands and carry out all of his orders. Even if it meant risking her life, she would not hesitate. I understand. Once this curse is placed, it's very difficult to change. Your soul will be branded with the teacher's mark, and you may eventually become a part of the teacher. Qing remained silent for a moment, then finally offered a reminder. The cursed seal carries a portion of Orochimaru's soul essence. Under the influence of natural energy, it will continuously assimilate Anko's soul, causing her personality and body to gradually transform into Orochimaru's. Isn't this our duty as students, directly taught by our teacher? To carry on the teacher's will. After hearing this, Hongdu's eyes lit up and she said. Ao remained silent. He knew that Anko had most likely misunderstood something, but Anko's loyalty to Orochimaru was beyond question. But he couldn't understand why Anko didn't defect with Orochimaru in the future. Even if she hadn't planted the curse mark, she wouldn't betray Orochimaru. 3 days later. In the dark base, the laboratory was brightly lit. Orochimaru formed hand seals and casually collapsed to the ground. A spirit slowly floated in midair. A body without a soul has no defensive capabilities. Uchiha stood aside, quietly watching this scene. At this moment, with just a thought, he could easily kill Orochimaru. But he did not do that. Let's begin. Orochimaru, in his spirit form, gave the order. He trusted his judgment and entrusted the experiment to Qing, believing that Qing would not allow the experiment to fail in order to kill him. Uchiha nodded. A faint blue light slowly emerged from his hands. This was a scalpel formed from his spiritual power and also a part of his soul. Through this intangible weapon, a piece of flesh was severed from Orochimaru's spirit's right arm and sealed within a scroll. Next moment, Orochimaru's spirit then returned to its original form. It slowly merged into its body on the ground and then shakily stood up. A large grey-black snake emerged from the sleeve and swallowed the scroll that sealed the soul in one gulp. Chapter 9 Experiment Successful, Perfect Curse Seal. Red Bean, relax. Orochimaru looked at the girl on the operating table and gently comforted her. Just as Hongdu responded, she felt a pain in her neck. In an instant, the giant snake bit down on Hongdu's neck, its fangs instantly channeling immense natural energy, including the power that connected to the soul. With the injection of power, the snake's body gradually shrank. Eventually, they all disappeared, leaving behind a strange mark of 5 black Magatama symbols below Hongdu's neck. The grey serpent is a cursed seal technique created by Orochimaru based on Ao's research. It contains all the characteristics of the technique, as well as the most important natural energy and fragments of Orochimaru's soul. The entire process lasted for 3 hours. Throughout the entire process, Orochimaru maintained perfect concentration and controlled his chakra with exquisite precision. There was not the slightest deviation. Uchiha watched this scene with eyes full of admiration. Only a genius like Orochimaru could maintain perfect control over chakra for such a long time. He probably wouldn't even last 10 minutes. This is the difference between the two. He's still far from good enough. Even if all the planned achievements were entrusted to him now, he probably wouldn't be able to inherit them. It's a success. Orochimaru breathed a sigh of relief, large beads of sweat dripping from his forehead. My body was already mostly soaked. It's obvious that he overdrawn most of his body's strength. My spirits have weakened considerably. He gazed intently at the unconscious Hongdu. A sense of worry welled up inside him, and he subconsciously reached out his hand. After noticing Hongdu's heavy breathing, he turned around and looked at his assistant behind him. Did you notice anything unusual during the whole process? Were you able to keep up? Orochimaru asked. Although Ching is young, some of the ideas he put forward are worth pondering. Therefore, he also consciously cultivated it. I hope Ching can grow up and become his true assistant. Orochimaru never hesitated to share his knowledge with fellow researchers. Ching nodded gently. The research project on Danzo that Orochimaru had previously arranged came to mind. Considering that Orochimaru didn't hold anything back, he hesitated for a moment, then decided to give Orochimaru a reminder. Teacher, are you still going to complete Danzo's remaining experiments? After the fourth Hokage's death, you should be the most suitable successor, right? If you become Hokage, will you still be able to trust Danzo? He had no doubts about the knowledge and questions Orochimaru imparted, because even the spy Kabuto Yakashi, who was planted by others in the future, betrayed his original master Sasori of the Red Sand because of Orochimaru and became Orochimaru's most capable assistant. After hearing this, Orochimaru nodded thoughtfully. It takes about an hour. Hongdu, who had been in a coma, woke up. How are you feeling? Ching's voice came from beside her ear, and Hongdu's blank mind was filled with previous memories. A burning sensation came from my neck. She instinctively covered her face, and a sharp pain shot through her skin the moment it touched her skin. A chakra that did not belong to her was continuously merging into her body along the cursed seal, changing her physical form. The chakra within his body more than doubled. He was promoted directly from Chunin to Jonin, which was a qualitative change. Some of the ninjutsu techniques that were previously unfamiliar now seem much clearer in my mind. She rolled over and got out of bed. After stretching his body, he replied, "Not bad. My body seems stronger, and there are no abnormalities." She glanced around her surroundings. The enclosed room had oil lamps burning on the walls, emitting a pungent smell. Familiar surroundings. It was still in a break room in the laboratory. Where is the teacher? She asked the question. The first question I asked after regaining consciousness was where the teacher was. Ching nodded and said, "This experiment also put a lot of pressure on the teacher, who is now recuperating." That's true. To ensure the success of the cursed seal transplant, Orochimaru expended tremendous effort during the experiment and even split off a part of his soul. It's like forcibly cutting a piece of flesh from the most important spiritual and mental body. This damage will last a lifetime. Even Orochimaru, who possesses cage-level strength, couldn't withstand it. However, before the experiment, Ao had already listed some of the side effects for Orochimaru. It also provided some remedial measures and solutions. Orochimaru is currently undergoing treatment according to the plan provided by Ao. He was given full authority to handle the arrangements for Hongdu. Looks like it worked. Your body will experience some unusual reactions over the next period of time, and you must tell me everything truthfully. Qing closed a notebook with Hongdu's name on it. It contained all of Hongdu's information, including her measurements, blood type, and other physical data. The following week, the red beans all need to be kept in the laboratory to complete all the indicator tests together with the green beans. On the third day, Orochimaru emerged from his seclusion. He found Hongdu, glanced at the data recorded by Qing, and nodded in satisfaction. Then he went out. They didn't explain anything. Is the teacher all right? Anko watched Orochimaru's departing figure and subconsciously asked a question. The teacher didn't say anything, but her pale face still pained her deeply. Qing glanced at her. I secretly admire Orochimaru's pure relationships with those around him. It's truly addictive. The girl, Anko, completely disregarded her status as experimental material and instead showed extraordinary concern for Orochimaru, her teacher who treated her as a tool. There shouldn't be any major problems. After putting away the documents in her hands and arranging all the testing equipment, Qing answered. He offered Orochimaru 3 solutions for soul repair. One was a method derived from the principles of the Reaper Death Seal, which involved devouring the souls of other creatures to replenish one's own damaged soul. This method is relatively simple. Once the Reaper Death Seal technique is disassembled, it can be easily created. It's just that it borrows some of the abilities of the Shinigami, summoned by the Reaper Death Seal. It has significant drawbacks and unpredictable long-term consequences. It's even possible that the souls consumed may not belong to the original being. The second method is inspired by the shadow clone technique, which involves splitting and separating the differentiated parts of the soul into clones. Then, the damaged soul is repaired by using the extracted soul fragments. This can partially heal the wounds caused by the tearing of the soul, but it will permanently reduce the quality of the soul of the original body, making it irreversible. The last method is based on the cultivation of soul power described in the art of spiritualization, which involves slowly repairing damage to the soul through long-term practice. Based on Orochimaru's exit time, Qing roughly guessed that he must have used the second method to temporarily suppress the injuries at the soul level. It has to be said, Orochimaru is really ruthless to himself. In order to create the technique of resurrection, he did not hesitate to attack his own soul. If it were someone else, they would probably have had many concerns. Even Qing himself wouldn't dare to easily adopt those proposals. However, Orochimaru chose it without hesitation after seeing its feasibility. He was extremely impressed by this. Qing took out a notebook, flipped to the latest page, and looked at Hongdu, saying, "The teacher's situation isn't too bad, but you need to familiarize yourself with the power of the cursed seal as soon as possible, otherwise." He paused for a moment, then pressed his finger on a set of data. "If I can't master this power, I'm afraid I won't live long and will become a cripple, or even my life will be threatened." Chapter 10, Red Bean's Warning. What? Hongdu was momentarily stunned. She took a notebook from Uchiha, glanced at it, and immediately perked up. How could this happen? Red Bean murmured. It records all the changes in her physical data over the past 3 days. After the cursed seal was implanted, her physical strength increased by 30% in the first day, and her chakra level nearly tripled, resulting in a qualitative change. At the same time, he also made certain improvements in ninjutsu, taijutsu, and comprehension. The overall strength has undergone a qualitative change. He went from a Chunin with a barely passing score of 25 to a Jonin with a score of 62. It's important to know that this is a comprehensive ninja strength rating system that Orochimaru developed based on his years of experience, under Ao's guidance, and according to the Ninja Academy's rating mechanism. It requires a comprehensive evaluation of multiple aspects, including physical fitness, mental strength, ninjutsu, taijutsu, and chakra. Even Orochimaru himself only received a score of 89 when the system was developed. In the system established by Ao, 20 points is the threshold for Genin, and breaking through 20 points makes one a Chunin. Scores of 20-40 are considered Chunin, while scores above 35 are considered elite Chunin. A score of 40-60 indicates a special Jonin, who excels in one or more aspects, with at least one individual score exceeding 60. A score of over 60 points qualifies one as a Jonin, meaning they have virtually no weaknesses and are among the best in the entire ninja world. As for scores of 80 or higher, those are considered movie-level ratings. He has no obvious weaknesses in any aspect and can reach the world's top level in a certain field. He has extraordinary combat power and possesses strength that can crush Jonin-level players. Orochimaru was able to achieve this rating entirely because his strength was too comprehensive. He currently has no weaknesses in terms of his soul, and his chakra reserves, ninjutsu, taijutsu, and mental strength are all far ahead of ordinary Jonin. All your advancements are the power bestowed upon you by the teacher's curse. If you do not control it, you will only become a useless shell in the future. You don't want your teacher to be disappointed in you, do you? Ching said with a warning, "This is a white lie." He knew that Anko admired Orochimaru and dreamed of becoming a ninja like Orochimaru. So they took advantage of this psychology of hers, making her have a will to survive. Hongdu's improvement was very fast, faster than he had imagined. This is because the changes Orochimaru's soul imprint brought to her body were too great. This is because their souls are so perfectly aligned. The perfect heavenly curse seal nowadays not only enhances transformation, but also subtly strengthens the body. Even Orochimaru hadn't anticipated this. The domineering soul imprint will gradually assimilate Anko's body. If she does not master the ability to control the cursed seal, she will gradually evolve into a clone of Orochimaru. A shadow clone with a physical body. A body that possesses the complete soul memories of Orochimaru. After his resurrection, he might even compete with Orochimaru's true form for the identity of Orochimaru. This is the first side effect that has emerged from the improved heavenly curse seal. Ching did not write these guesses in the experimental records. To avoid being discovered by Orochimaru and to allow Anko to be assimilated by his soul. Ao knew that Orochimaru was a very narcissistic person. If he had the chance to create another self, he would definitely not hesitate to give up Anko, his seemingly non-existent disciple. And they would also lack a lot of control, data from their experiments. There's no way to control the various reactions after the heavenly curse seal is transplanted. Hongdu took these words to heart. Silently, I began to grit my teeth and persevere, resisting a temptation deep within my heart. That voice kept guiding her to accept the power provided by the curse mark on her neck, to abandon her identity, and to forget some important memories. A week has passed. Anko's power has stabilized at the Jonin level, and she is not far from becoming an elite Jonin. The person's chakra level increased by about 4 times compared to before the experiment. Within a week, she grew 5 centimeters taller, and even her flat chest developed a deep cleavage. Her originally lowly-like figure has become somewhat plump. Her short hair reached her shoulders, and was tied into a ponytail. His bangs covered his ninja headband. Below are a pair of energetic eyes. Ching, is the checkup over? She looked at the man in front of her with hope. It's finished. All the data has been processed. Al nodded, put away the notebook in her hand, and placed it neatly on a bookshelf. The entire shelf was filled with the name of Mitarashi Anko. Half of the data consists of information Orochimaru collected regarding the creation of the Cursed Seal, while the other half is data gathered before and after the Red Bean experiment. Over the course of a week, I filled 21 notebooks with data on various changes in the Red Bean. Can I go find the professor now? He hasn't been in the lab for so long. He must be in some trouble. Hongdu said eagerly. Aside from needing experimental materials, teachers generally don't leave the lab for very long. Not seeing her teacher for so long caused her great anxiety. She was already worried the day after Orochimaru left, and on the third day she almost got into a fight with Uchiha. At this moment, Anko's strength far surpasses that of Uchiha, who is still a genin. Even if he wanted to stop her, he couldn't. It was only through Orochimaru's handwritten note that Ao persuaded Anko to stay. Go ahead, but I think if even the teacher can't get away, your current strength probably still won't be of much help. Ching spoke the truth. This world is fraught with danger. Even in the safe village of Konoha, there is the significant threat of Danzo. Without anyone to shelter them. He is not safe anywhere, except at Orochimaru's base. Our purpose is to assist our teacher in completing all the research. Even if it costs me my life, I will protect our teacher and bring them back safely. Hongdu looked at Ching with a determined gaze and said, word by word, I don't know what your purpose is, but while your teacher is alive, you'd better not have any ulterior motives, or I'll make you regret ever being born. Although Ching has been performing exceptionally well recently and has gained the teacher's approval, but she remained vigilant. She had always believed that Uchiha Ao's motives were impure. Don't worry, I respect my teacher very much and hope to carry on his research. This money is a reward from my teacher. Please give it to my younger brother, Uchiha Ran. Ching ignored Anko's threat, took out a stack of silver coins from his ninja tool bag and handed them to her. The thick stack of silver coins, amounting to over 500,000, was enough for his younger siblings to live on until graduation. This will temporarily alleviate the family's financial situation. You really are a family man. Hongdu paused for a moment, took the money, and replied. She never expected that Uchiha Ao would entrust such an important matter to someone who hated him when his life was threatened. I've only ever felt this sense of trust from Orochimaru. Ching is the second one. Chapter 11, Root Attack. The rising sun was slightly dazzling. Hongdu subconsciously closed her eyes for a moment before recovering. They gradually adapted to the external environment. I spent nearly half a month in the Underground Research Institute. When I came out again, it was as if I had entered a completely different world. She tidied her hair and tied it back. A pair of dark eyes swept around, and many previously unnoticed anomalies became clearly visible. Part of it was an assignment left by the teacher, who placed several small snakes near the base to keep an eye on the surroundings. The ninjas hiding in the shadows clearly had ill intentions. She glanced at them discreetly and roughly assessed their strength, a combination of 1 jonin and 3 chunin. If she made a move now, there would likely be some who escaped. After learning that the teacher had made some preparations, to avoid alerting the enemy, she pretended to know nothing and left. The root ninjas hidden in the shadows did not suspect anything. They did not expect that Anko's strength could change so drastically in such a short time, and that she would discover them all. After Hongdu left, the group quietly appeared, exchanged glances, and stealthily entered the laboratory. Mori Gen, go and deal with that Uchiha clansman. The rest of you, come with me to find A. The leader of the Root Jonin gave the order. Their mission was to seize the wood release experimental subjects and related data from Orochimaru. While we're at it, we'll also take care of a problem with the Uchiha clan. Lord Danzo did not want to see the Uchiha clan and Orochimaru become too closely connected. To avoid unnecessary trouble when dealing with the Uchiha clan in the future. The lowest level of the laboratory. Inside a lounge. Ching was holding an injection, examining it repeatedly. Inside is the serum of the first Hokage. Orochimaru must have noticed his underhanded tactics when he intercepted a sample during the early stages of the first cell transplantation experiment, but he did not intervene. The tremendous stimulus caused by the qualitative change in Hongdu's strength had a great impact on him. I couldn't resist bringing forward my plans. We must put improving our strength on the agenda as soon as possible. Shortly after the Nine Tails incident, Orochimaru defected shortly after the third Hokage took office. Given my current value, Orochimaru will definitely take me along. But there's no guarantee we'll survive the pursuit from Konoha. We can't put all our hopes on Orochimaru. Many thoughts flashed through Ching's mind. Originally, the plan was to develop a forbidden technique to improve physical talent based on the perfect curse seal after the curse seal was researched, so that the current body would have the talent to absorb natural energy. But there's not enough time now. Orochimaru hasn't returned for a long time. He's most likely tied up with things outside. This is his best opportunity to conduct independent research. But it could also be a trap set by Orochimaru, causing him to reveal his trump card. The first-generation serum removes most of the cells that are harmful to the body, leaving only a portion of blood components that specifically enhance and stimulate the body's immune function. This allows it to maximize the integration of the power of the first-generation cells and minimize side effects on the body. After a brief preparation, Ching barricaded the door shut and then injected the serum directly into her arm, allowing it to flow into her body through the syringe. A burning sensation came from within my body. The expected side effects did not occur. Instead, a burning sensation surged through my body, constantly scorching me as if I were being roasted by fire. Soon after, the chakra in his danchan began to surge violently, triggering a series of chain reactions. The cells in the body, involuntarily, began to refine chakra. 1 drop, 2 drops. The liquid formed from chakra condenses in the danchan area and gradually increases in volume. At the same time, a cool sensation came from my eyes. His temples bulged slightly, and as chakra surged down, it was as if something was about to burst forth from the ground. Cold. Not bad. The first-generation cells are still too outstanding. Just a little bit of serum can produce such a big effect. If it is fully transplanted, I don't know if the body can withstand it. His chakra has doubled, but there are no visible changes in his physical condition yet. This is probably because the first Hokage cells have stimulated the cells in his body, producing a great boost. Changes in cells can indeed promote a qualitative change in chakra. A smile appeared on Ching's lips. In just 1 month, he had transformed from a genin whose chakra level barely met the requirements into an elite genin. It's almost close to the amount of chakra that Red Bean had before the experiment. Taking drugs is indeed a shortcut. Unfortunately, it's a one-time treatment and can't be injected repeatedly. Ching put down the injection. The ears twitched slightly. They heard a noise coming from outside the door. He was the only one left in the lab who could move freely. The rest were either materials imprisoned in the lab's dungeon or deformed and crippled individuals resulting from failed experiments. It's impossible for such normal footsteps to be heard. Who? Ao instantly stood up, took out a silver metal scalpel from his ninja tool bag with his right hand, held it in his palm, and quietly moved to the wall behind the door. I pressed my ear against the wall, held my breath, and watched the movements outside the door. Creak. The door moved slightly. Someone tried to push the door, but was stopped by the bolt. The noise is very subtle, and it's hard to notice if you're not paying attention. Ching's expression was solemn, his calm gaze fixed on the movement of the door bolt. A small knife slipped in from outside the door. The bolt was gently pried open. Thump. The bolt fell to the ground. The door opened. A foot wrapped in white bandages reached in. In that instant, Ching moved. The silver scalpel in his hand flew out instantly, heading straight for the foot that had been inserted. Clang! A metallic clanging sound rang out. The speeding scalpel was blocked by a jet-black kunai and knocked to the ground. Then a face covered with a rabbit mask appeared at the edge of the door. Oh, you're quite alert. A mere genin managed to catch my movements. The other party let out a contemptuous sneer. He leaned in and closed the door behind him. The kunai spun incessantly on his fingertips, and the eyes beneath the mask were filled with mockery, like a cat playing with a mouse. In his eyes, Uchiha Ao is already dead. The roots. Ching uttered 2 words, staring intently at the other person's movements, his hands hidden behind his back, quietly forming several hand seals. You still know us. You brat, you know quite a bit. No wonder you've gained Orochimaru's favor. Unfortunately, you offended someone you shouldn't have. I can't believe it, a Chunin from Root said in surprise. Give up struggling, and I can give you a quick death. He noticed the other person's subtle movements and gave them no chance to retaliate. Suddenly, Ching stepped forward and instinctively reached out his hand, a pale blue chakra blade gathering in his hand, but the opponent easily dodged it. The gap in strength. It's despair-inducing. He was just a genin, with a lot of experimental experience from his past life in his mind, but virtually no experience in combat. No matter how much knowledge you have in your mind, or how careful you are. There was nothing they could do against this experienced ANBU Chunin. The newly increased strength was not immediately converted into power. Puff! The kunai pierced his body. At the last moment, Ching used all her strength to turn her body to the side, avoiding a fatal blow to the heart. The kunai got stuck in his arm. He endured the excruciating pain, suddenly reached out his hands, and hugged the other person tightly. He was immediately jolted awake. My soul trembled. Spiritualization technique. His hand seals, already completed, were revealed, and the chakra guided by the technique suddenly erupted at that moment. His soul was extracted from his body. Bang! Their souls collided directly with each other's bodies in an instant. Puff! The instant the spirits collided. The other party's soul was caught completely off guard and offered no resistance before it simply dissolved. The two then collapsed to the ground, lifeless. Chapter 12, Teacher, I choose to leave with you. After a while, Ching's eyes snapped open, and she slowly stood up, clutching her head. We survived. He forced himself to endure the dizziness and treated the wound. Once the penetrating wound was bandaged up, there were no further problems. He reached out and pulled a ninja tool pouch from the enemy's body, then noticed 4 explosive tags stuck to the enemy's chest, which he carefully removed. 2 short knives, were also hidden in his waist and ankle. That's all money. One explosive tag costs 300 taels of silver. 4 tags are enough to cover their family's food expenses for a month. He pried open the corpse's mouth and pulled out its tongue. A black curse mark was visible above, spreading deep into the throat. As expected, it's the root. The seal for eradicating the root of tongue-related calamities. Even if you already had a guess in your heart. I was still surprised when it was confirmed. Despite being allies with Danzo, Orochimaru and Danzo were still secretly vying for power. After the death of the fourth Hokage, Orochimaru became the biggest obstacle to Danzo's promotion to Hokage, and their cooperative relationship had probably already broken down long ago. After disposing of the body, Ching quietly slipped out of the bedroom. They left the rest area. They first went to the warehouse where various materials were stored and found that there was no disturbance and everything was intact. He quietly put all the first Hokage serum into his ninja tool bag, 12 of them, which was practically all of Orochimaru's collected items. They then arrived at the place where the experimental subject lived. This place is guarded by several of Orochimaru's subordinates, and the people living inside are all those who successfully conducted experiments. The 2 guards at the gate were lying on the ground, blood flowing from their necks and staining the ground red. Are they here for the experimental subjects? Ching's expression changed slightly, and he stopped in his tracks, hiding in the shadows of the passageway. A moment later, 3 ninjas emerged from the passage, carrying a person hostage, quickly passing through the corridor and running towards the outside of the base. Ching witnessed this scene, but did not make a move. With his current strength, revealing himself would mean certain death. He waited there for a long time before slowly emerging from the shadows. He walked past the corpses at the door and into the secret room where the experimental subjects were held. After entering, what came into view were 8 glass culture containers, filled with a deep blue liquid, each containing a pale corpse. The teacher is a genius. He was able to develop a solution specifically for preserving corpses under such technological conditions. Ching gazed at the scene before him and couldn't help but sigh. In a world where technology is still far behind and many electrical devices are not even available, it is astonishing that these miraculous items have been created. With the help of ninjutsu, Orochimaru's biological and technological research has surpassed that of his previous life. Beyond the corridor of the culture tanks lies a residential area. All the surviving test subjects live here. Ching glanced around and found that there were a total of 5 rooms, 2 of which were empty. There are also 3 rooms that show signs of being occupied. Only 2 rooms were occupied. One person was obese, with no visible limbs or facial features. His entire body was covered by vesicle-like skin, making him look like an inflated balloon. The capillaries and organs beneath his skin were clearly visible. He lay on the white hospital bed in the room, constantly groaning. He endured the physical pain. In another room lived a person with normal limbs, but with a blank stare and no reaction to the outside world. The intruders failed to kill the 2 test subjects. A failed first-generation cell transplant patient. Ching noticed the state of the 2 people and immediately realized what was going on. They all exuded a rich aura of first-generation cells. Ching unlocked the door, pushed it open, and went inside. She extracted some cell fluid from the brain of the dementia test subject and some cell fluid from the body of the obesity test subject. These 2 individuals received primary cell tissue transplants from different parts of their bodies, resulting in varying degrees of damage. Purifying the primary cells from their bodies will be of great help for future experiments. Just as Ao placed the collected cell tissue into his ninja tool pouch, a familiar figure appeared in the corridor. Kingjun, what are you doing here? Orochimaru's slightly doubtful voice rang out, and soon the entire passage was filled with snakes, their tongues hissing as they surrounded Uchiha Yoto. If it is slightly wrong, he will be devoured by the snake. Orochimaru had anticipated this. He probably watched helplessly as Kagami was taken away by Root. Why do this? Ching was puzzled. The base was attacked. I killed the attacker and just got here, but it was too late. The intruders have already left. Ching spoke the truth, but omitted some of his own actions. Orochimaru's chakra aura was slightly volatile. He glanced around, his expression returning to calm. A pair of vertical pupils gave Ching a deep look. The atmosphere was oppressive. Ching remained calm and composed under this scrutiny. Orochimaru was the first to break the tranquility. I understand. Things haven't been peaceful around here lately, so you'd better not come to the base. Orochimaru turned around, said these words, and then disappeared at the end of the corridor. He didn't seem to care much about the invasion of the base. Perhaps it was expected. He has already transferred all the key experimental materials. It seems Orochimaru took his advice to heart. Preparations were made in advance. So if he were to defect in the future, he wouldn't have to flee in a panic and lose most of his belongings. As long as Orochimaru's research data remains. Even if a few subordinates die, it won't be a significant loss for the base as a whole. Ao stared at Orochimaru's retreating figure, silently calculating in his mind. Danzo may be about to make his move. This was clearly an invasion by the Root, but Orochimaru had no intention of investigating further. They've probably already made plans to defect. I just don't know if he'll take me away. If he had a choice, Ao would still want to leave with Orochimaru. Given his current status as an Uchiha clan member and Orochimaru's disciple, staying in Konoha would only make him a target of public criticism. Anko, a genius commoner ninja who became a Chunin at the age of 12, was originally a staunch supporter of the Third Hokage. After Orochimaru defected, being branded as Orochimaru's disciple didn't end well for him. More than 10 years have passed. While Naruto and the others were all applying to become Chunin, she was still just a special Jonin. He failed to even be promoted to a full-fledged Jonin and was completely alienated from the core of the village. He can only play a marginal role in some peripheral tasks. Is Orochimaru-sensei planning to leave? Ching spoke loudly towards the end of the corridor. The figure in the distance suddenly paused. He turned his head to the side, revealing a meaningful look in his eyes. Orochimaru, observing Orochimaru's calm blue face, noticed the expectant look in Orochimaru's eyes, and with a slight stirring in his heart, nodded gently. Yes, Konoha village is no longer a suitable place for peaceful research. There are too many restrictions. The teacher would not violate the second Hokage prohibition and allow him to conduct human experiments. Seeing this, Ching immediately seized the opportunity. With Danzo, their last ally, betraying them, there was no need to stop here. May I leave with you? With just one sentence, Ching made her stance clear. Orochimaru's pupils contracted, clearly not expecting that Uchiha Ao would abandon his bright future and choose to leave with him, the ninja who was about to defect. Are you sure? Once you leave the village, your Uchiha identity will be worthless, and it might even bring you deadly danger. They were relentlessly pursued by the Uchiha clan. You know better than I how terrifying the Uchiha's power is. Orochimaru turned around, his eyes darkening. The Uchiha clan's position in Konoha is beyond question. As one of only 2 ninja clans to have founded Konoha, they would not be in any danger as long as they stayed in the village obediently. To live a peaceful and stable life. Even if they face criticism from some villages, it cannot shake their position. Defection. This would mean a complete break with the village and the Uchiha clan. They will face pursuit from the village and the Uchiha clan in the future. Throughout history, no one has ever survived the pursuit of the Uchiha clan. This is a choice with vastly different advantages and disadvantages. No fool would make such a choice. But Uchiha Ao is an exception. He knew that staying in Konoha was nothing short of a slow death. Teacher, in pursuit of immortality, I'm willing to leave with you. These words struck a chord with Orochimaru. He gave it his approval. Chapter 13, Uchiha's Warning. Orochimaru had anticipated Danzo's actions. The only exception was Uchiha Ao, the Uchiha clansman who suddenly came knocking on their door. He never expected that this 12-year-old would follow him even more resolutely than Hongdo. Actually, when Orochimaru was planning to leave the village, he had already revealed this intention to Anko. However, Anko was unaware of Orochimaru's intentions and made a different choice. Seeing this, Orochimaru gave up his idea of taking Anko with him. This disciple was, after all, a student trained by the Ninja Academy, and his mind had long been imbued with the will of fire. She stubbornly adhered to the rigid rules of Konoha village. Ultimately, they were not on the same path. Defection. For these students, who had been poisoned by the will of fire, it was tantamount to the collapse of their faith. Red Bean doesn't want to leave Konoha. Orochimaru simply gave up on them. Orochimaru only spent a little over a year with Anko. There wasn't much emotion involved. Uchiha Ao suspected that the main reason why Anko still harbored deep resentment towards Orochimaru more than 10 years later was probably because of the cursed seal that had just been placed on her. The fragments of Orochimaru's soul contained within the cursed seal influence her, subtly causing her personal habits and will to gravitate towards Orochimaru's. Wait for me in the Valley of the End, at dawn 10 days from now. Orochimaru left behind a single sentence before letting Uchiha Ao depart. A month later, when Ao returned to the Uchiha clan, the atmosphere in the entire family became increasingly oppressive, with gloomy expressions on the faces of the clansmen and their words filled with anger. Ao behaved very modestly, and when questioned several times, he only said that he was training with Orochimaru. Ching did not reveal his true purpose. I had just arrived at my doorstep when I encountered an unexpected person. Ao, you're back. I heard. You were assigned to Orochimaru's team. I remember Orochimaru hasn't mentored a new recruit in 2 years. Fugaku Uchiha stood in front of him, his eyes filled with scrutiny and questioning. Behind him followed 2 menacing-looking Uchiha executives. Ching had some impression of them. One was called Daehyo, and the other was called Yewei. They are all the elite backbone of the family. Clan leader, I was just lucky to be chosen by Orochimaru-sensei. Ching said respectfully, his eyes filled with reverence for the clan leader, behaving no differently from any other Uchiha clansman. Fugaku Uchiha chuckled, this is no fluke. Others may not know, but I know Orochimaru's arrogance. Ordinary people can't even catch his eye. Ching, no matter what methods you used to gain Orochimaru's favor, I hope you remember your identity. You are a member of the Uchiha clan. Even death cannot change the blood ties. Don't do anything to betray the family. After Fugaku Uchiha finished speaking his words, which were full of threat, a pair of Tsutomu sharing an eyes suddenly appeared behind him, staring at Ao Uchiha with murderous intent. This is a blatant threat. I know, chieftain. The glory of the Uchiha clan is above all else. Ching answered with her head down, subtly concealing the fierce look in her eyes. Fugaku Uchiha nodded in satisfaction at his respectful demeanor and casually ordered, "Report to me immediately if Orochimaru makes any unusual moves." The words fell. "Father." A call came from afar. Not far away, a boy with a radish-like hairstyle was walking towards them. Fugaku gently patted Ao's shoulder, walked past him, and went towards the boy. Ao looked in the direction of Fugaku. "Itachi. He's only just started the Ninja Academy. Behave yourself, Ching. Many people in the clan don't have the same treatment as you, being able to directly meet the clan leader." Uchiha Inahisa had a cold face, her long, horse-like face revealing an air of superior arrogance, and her narrow eyes were full of warning. As soon as he finished speaking, he followed Fugaku away. Ching watched the departing figures of the group, then looked at the boy surrounded by them in the distance, a mocking smile playing on her lips. "Itachi, even if I kill you now, will the Uchiha clan still perish?" A thought flashed through Ching's mind. The moment the immense killing intent surged forth, he sensed the several guards accompanying Itachi. Fugaku is really careful with his son. No wonder Danzo, who has broken ties with the Uchiha clan, can't find an opportunity to attack Itachi Uchiha. He left immediately. Let's not complicate things further. Once I've improved my strength, I'll come back and deal with Itachi Uchiha. "Brother, are you all right? Did the clan leader and the others give you any trouble just now?" The sound of her younger brother, Uchiha Ran, drew Ao's attention back to her. He turned to look at his concerned younger brother, gently shook his head, and said, "It's nothing. Lan, you should apply for early graduation next year." "Why?" "Brother, didn't you always say that you take the graduation exam in 6th grade?" Lan asked in surprise. Their older brother kept telling them to stay at the Ninja Academy as long as possible to accumulate strength and experience, and delay the time it would take to become a ninja. If it weren't for the fact that he could only stay in school until he was 12, he felt that his brother would probably want to stay in school for a few more years. He had absolutely no intention of becoming a formal ninja. He didn't quite understand his brother's behavior at first, but after attending a memorial service after the war, he realized his brother's good intentions. At that memorial service, the fourth Hokage compiled a list of ninjas who had sacrificed their lives in the entire Third Shinobi World War. The war, which lasted for more than a decade, cost the lives of tens of thousands of ninjas